Alright guys, the games are coming thick and fast in the Championship at this stage of the season. We've got even more games in the EFL to preview coming up this weekend. And of course, all the Boxing Day fixtures will be discussed throughout today's video as well. Apologies if my voice does sound a little bit dodgy for today's video. I am still a little bit ill, but the show must go on. As always, make sure to drop your score predictions in the comments down below. And without any further ado, let's jump in. So starting out at Carrow Road for Norwich going up against QPR. It was a much needed win for Norwich on Boxing Day, beating Millwall 2-1. A much improved performance from Norwich compared to some of their recent outings. It was their first win in their last 5 Championship matches. Really good showing for the first 45 minutes especially, and more of the same in this one, and I could certainly see them doing the job on QPR. Now QPR had been on a really good run of form leading into Boxing Day, but they were absolutely taken apart by a really good Swansea City side, especially in that first half where QPR just didn't show up whatsoever. There has been a bit of an emerging pattern cropping up recently relating to QPR and some of their away performances. They've now only scored 1 goal in their last 3 away matches, QPR, and in those last 3 away matches they've only registered 3 shots on target. So that lack of goal mouth action in away games especially has been a bit of a problem for them recently. Score prediction for me in this game, I'm going to back Norwich for another 2-1 home victory. Fancy them for back-to-back wins there. After that, we go to Deepdale for Preston up against Sheffield Wednesday. Sheffield Wednesday involved of the game of Boxing Day, coming back from 3 goals down against Middlesbrough to level it up at 3-3. Sheffield Wednesday fans who are in that away end at the Riverside, let me know down below just what that was like. This one, I don't think there'll be a great deal between the two sides, if I'm honest. Neither team losing a lot of football matches right now. Sheffield Wednesday have only lost 1 of their last 8, and that's the exact same record for Preston as well, just 1 loss in our last 8 matches. Home form has been pretty solid for Preston recently. We're unbeaten in our last 5 games at Deepdale. We're obviously coming off the back of a 1-0 win over Hull on Boxing Day. Not the best game of football in terms of a spectacle, but it was a scrappy 3 points, and you absolutely take them, especially when the turnaround over this festive period is quite tight. Wednesday have been pretty decent value for money on the road recently though. They're now unbeaten in their last 4 away matches. Obviously it wasn't long ago that Preston travelled to Hillsborough to face Sheffield Wednesday. I thought Preston were the much better side in that game, but it finished level in the end. I've got a feeling this game could go down a similar path. Score prediction, I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw between us two. And then for the last of the early kickoffs on Sunday, we're going to Bramall Lane for Sheffield United up against West Brom. Sheffield United looking to react to that 2-0 loss to Burnley on Boxing Day. Now, arguably a bigger consequence of that Burnley game isn't actually the result, but some of the injuries that Sheffield United are now having to contend with. Sousa had to come off at half-time because of an issue with his hamstring, but the bigger problem could be with Harry Souttar, and judging by Chris Wilder's comments after that game, it looks like the defender could be set for a lengthy spell on the sidelines, which would be a huge blow to Sheffield United at this stage. He's obviously been an integral part of that backline and why they have been so sturdy this season. Obviously the defeat for Burnley would have been tough to take. It's difficult to go too harshly in on Sheffield United though, because I mean it's only 1 loss in their last 12 matches, and taking everything into consideration with West Brom at the moment, it does feel like maybe a decent time to be playing the Baggies with Carlos Corberán, who's obviously just left. It feels like they might have a period of inconsistency over these next few weeks. As a result of that, obviously, they weren't at their best on Boxing Day as they fell to a 2-1 defeat against Derby. A draw here wouldn't surprise me, but score prediction, I'm just going to edge it to the Blades. Score prediction there, I'm going to go 1-0 Sheffield United, but that one will be a tight one, I reckon. After that, we go to Ewood Park for Blackburn up against Hull. Blackburn managed to salvage a point against Sunderland on Boxing Day. Thought that game might have got away from them in the second half when Sunderland scored those 2 quite quick fire goals, but managed to salvage a point with a late goal in the end, and they'll probably fancy their chances in this one against a Hull side who didn't look brilliant against North End on Boxing Day. You could tell it was 2 quite scrappy teams in that game, Hull against Preston. In the end, Preston just had that little bit more quality, but despite Hull getting into a few decent positions, it was that lack of quality in the final third which really let them down. And it's in these sorts of matches against a Blackburn side who have been really good recently. You know, they've only lost 1 of their last 8 matches. that I see them becoming a little bit unstuck. Score prediction here, I'm going to go 2-0 Blackburn. I think it's tough to see past them right now, especially at Ewood Park against a side in the bottom three. After that, we go to Ashton Gate for Bristol City up against Portsmouth. We saw Bristol City beating Luton 1-0 on Boxing Day. Portsmouth got themselves into a really good position, leading at half-time against Watford, but looked to sort of see out that second half, went with quite a defensive approach in the end that ended up costing them as they conceded the 95th minute winner to Watford. Now, in the reverse fixture, Portsmouth absolutely wiped the floor with Bristol City at Fratton Park. They beat them 3-0, but away form has been maybe a bit of an Achilles heel for John Mousinho's side this season. They've only won once on the road in 11 attempts up until this point. But had it not been for a last minute winner from Watford, they very easily could have escaped from Vicarage Road with a point. And let's not forget, Portsmouth have only lost 2 of their last 7 matches, and Bristol City haven't quite been firing on all cylinders recently. Score prediction for this one, I'm going to say it's going to end level, 1-1 between those two. After that, we go to Coventry up against Millwall, and what a way for Coventry to react from conceding 4 goals against Portsmouth over the weekend to score 4 goals themselves against Plymouth on Boxing Day. That should give Frank Lampard's side a real injection of confidence, and I think there's a good opportunity here to make it back-to-back wins at home, going up against a Millwall side who obviously aren't completely settled right now after losing Neil Harris. They have taken their time to get this next appointment in through the door. Millwall coming off the back of that loss obviously on Boxing Day against Norwich. They grew into that game a little bit more in the second half, but I don't think many Millwall fans will have any complaints about losing that game really. Norwich were the better side, they created the better chances, and with the way Coventry have been creating chances recently, the lack of goals that Millwall have had on the road so far this season, I think I probably see it as a Coventry win. Don't think it'll be as comfortable for Cov as that Plymouth game was, but score prediction, going to go 2-0 to the home side in that game. After that, to a huge game at the bottom of the Championship, it's Oxford up against Plymouth, and I mean, what a way for Gary Rowett to start out at Oxford. A massive game at the bottom of the table on Boxing Day between themselves and Cardiff, and in the end, it was just the reaction that Rowett was after, winning that game 3-2. And the way Plymouth have been performing on the road this season, I think most people will probably be favouring the home side for a result in this one as well. To emphasise just how important this fixture is, if Oxford win this game, they'll go 6 points clear of Plymouth, but if Plymouth win it, they'll go level on points with Oxford. So a lot of stipulations around this game this weekend. Obviously, Plymouth coming off the back of a really damaging performance and result against Coventry, shipping 4 goals in that game. It now means that Plymouth's away record reads as this: 12 games away from home, 0 wins, 2 draws, 3 goals scored in away matches this season for Plymouth, and get this, 33 goals conceded. It really feels like most of the indicators are pointing towards an Oxford win, especially with them coming off the back of a good result themselves on Boxing Day. Score prediction for me, I'm going to go 3-1 Oxford in that game, which would be a huge booster to their survival hopes. But where that leaves Plymouth, yeah, that'll be a pretty grim situation going into the new year. Next then we go to the Bet365 Stadium for Stoke up against Sunderland. The fixture list is just unrelenting for Stoke over this festive period, isn't it? Coming off the back of a game against Leeds, they've got upcoming games now against Sunderland at home, and then they travel to Burnley away on New Year's Day. Sunderland obviously coming off the back of a draw with Blackburn on Boxing Day. Bit of a frustrating one maybe, because they were obviously in the ascendancy in that second half. Blackburn managed to peg them back with a late equaliser. In the reverse fixture between these two earlier in December, it was a Tommy Watson masterclass as Sunderland managed to win that fixture 2-1. I think I am edging it to the away side in this game here. Score prediction for me, I'm going to go 2-0 Sunderland and back the Black Cats to get back to winning ways. After that, we go to the Liberty for Swansea up against Luton Town. A cracking result for Swansea on Boxing Day as they really put QPR to the sword, beating them 3-0. I have thought there have been a few occasions so far this season where Swansea have actually played quite well, got into some really good areas, but they've not always had the results to go along with that. Sometimes maybe a lack of quality or just being a little bit too wasteful in the final third has cost them, but that wasn't the case over Boxing Day, against QPR. And you've got to fancy their chances against Luton in this one, who have been such a strange team of late. Absolutely brilliant at home. Luton are unbeaten in their last 6 matches at Kenilworth Road, but on the road recently, they've been absolutely hopeless. It's 8 consecutive losses in away matches for Rob Edwards' side. They're obviously coming off the back of a 1-0 loss against Bristol City on Boxing Day. Given that dismal run of away form, it's tough to see past a Swansea result for this one. Score prediction for me here, I'm going to go 2-0 Swansea. Back them for back-to-back wins at the Liberty, which would be a real booster for them because home form has been a little bit patchy this season for Swansea. After that, we go to Vicarage Road for Watford up against Cardiff. Watford continuing to roll out the wins at Vicarage Road this season, still unbeaten in home games this season. Now, on Boxing Day against Portsmouth, they left it late. It was by no means maybe their best performance of the season, but one way or another, they always seem to find a way to get over the line in home matches, and you have to fancy their chances of getting another 3 points in this one against a Cardiff side who are now on the longest winless run of any Championship club. It's 9 games without a win now for Cardiff, and I mean that loss against Oxford over the weekend, mentally, I think is absolutely damning. Performance-wise, obviously, they were all over the place. I know they brought the game back to 3-2 in the end to make the scoreline look a little bit more respectable with those 2 late goals, but make no mistake about it, Cardiff are in an absolute state going into this January window. I've got to admit as well, the upcoming fixture list doesn't look particularly kind to Cardiff. After this game against Watford, they've got games against Coventry, Middlesbrough, the reverse fixture against Watford, and then they've got the South Wales derby against Swansea, which I wouldn't like to be a Cardiff fan going into that game right now. Score prediction for me in this one, I'm going to go 2-0 Watford. Tough to see past a home win in that one. After that, we go to the evening kickoff on Sunday. That's between Derby and Leeds United, and got a feeling we could be set up for a decent encounter here. You know, Derby coming off the back of a really good result against West Brom, 2-1 victors in that game. And like I say, I fancy Derby to give Leeds a decent run for their money in this one. Obviously, it's a fixture which has had a bit of needle in it in recent times between those 2 clubs after obviously they met in the playoff semi-final all those years ago. Derby are the sort of side, the threats they pose going forward, who can cause a team like Leeds some problems on the road as well. It's the sort of game where, I mean, no doubt Leeds will dominate for possession. Derby can be quite good at frustrating teams that like to hold on to the ball like that, can't they? And obviously from a set piece or a counter can be absolutely deadly as well. Listen, Leeds have got the tools to get the job done here, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is another similar one to Leeds away at Preston or Leeds away at Bristol City, where they just don't quite get the job done. Score prediction, I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw between those 2. And then the last game we've got coming up this weekend is between Middlesbrough and Burnley. Middlesbrough fans, where on earth is your head at right now, coming off the back of that bonkers game against Sheffield Wednesday on Boxing Day, being 3 goals up in that game, looking like you're in cruise control, all to go on and draw the game 3-3 in the end, and things don't get much easier here against a Burnley side who have to be flying high on confidence after going to Bramall Lane, walking away with not just all 3 points but a clean sheet as well. Now means we're at the halfway stage of this Championship season, and Burnley have only conceded 9 goals so far. They're only projected to concede 18 goals during this entire Championship campaign, which is absolutely bonkers. Credit to Scott Parker, because there was a bit of scrutiny obviously around Burnley in the first few months of the season, the playing style not being particularly great, the lack of goals that was obviously prominent in the first few months, but feels like of late they've struck a decent balance between attack and defence. It's now 3 consecutive wins for Burnley. They're barely conceding any goals right now. I know Middlesbrough can be fantastic going forward themselves, but score prediction here, I'm going to go for another Scott Parker away day masterclass. 1-0 Burnley, I'm saying, for that game, which, yeah, will be a cracking result going into the new year. Well, guys, there you have it. That will now wrap it up for today's video. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you did go on to enjoy, make sure to leave a like and get all your score predictions in the comments down below. Other than that, though, guys, thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see you all in the next one.